So here we are in St. Patrick's Cemetery near Collis, Minnesota on September 21st, 2015. Collis is where Grandpa Tom and Grandma Nellie were married, and they all lived in this general farm area. And so I was thrilled to find our great-grandma and grandpa, Tom and Bridget, buried here, along with a few others. And you can see this is a very small cemetery. It was founded in the later 1800s and is a Catholic cemetery. And most of the names here are Irish. And so, coincidentally, I parked very close to the Spain Tombstones, and I'm going to walk up and talk about those. I see names of some of their neighbors as well, but there are two tombstones here of interest to the Spains. And the first one is the one I'm approaching, the tall one, that is covered in some type of growth that I was hoping to be able to brush off or pick off, but it is like cement. And you can see that it's listing a little bit. I would really like to figure out how to refurbish this and make sure it never topples over. But this tombstone has the inscriptions for great Grandpa Spain and great Grandma Bridget Spain. Very difficult to see, and of course now this side is shaded, but I have some actual photos as well that are better. And on this side we see Thomas Spain died August 4th, 1897, age 72 years old, and I know from other records that he died of tuberculosis. And we also see a baby, Thomas G., son of Thomas and Nellie Spain, who died in November of 1900, aged 2 months. And so this is Tom and Nellie, my grandparents, their firstborn. And it explains why our dad was named Tom, even though he had many older brothers. But he, apparently they felt they could use that name again, and so he became Thomas Willard Spain. Now over on this side we see, oh gosh, this isn't very clear either, but this is Bridget, wife of Thomas Spain, who died June 14, 1894. I know that she died also of tuberculosis, aged 65 years. Looks like probably 1 month and a few days. There's an inscription which I can't make out. When this is cleaned, the person will be able to read it, but something like she was a kind wife, fond mother, but it's a somewhat lengthy inscription, so we'll find out eventually what it is. And down below here, you can just barely see the Spain name, and also two little plaques that have nothing on them, and I think they are meant or were meant to mark the exact spots on the burial site. Now on the north side we have another Spain, and her name is Agnes. but her age is frequently here as 24 years, some number of months, 13 days. So this then is the my great-grandparent Spain's, and I was really thrilled to find this because it simply wasn't online anywhere, and I can see why people who photographed other tombstones and markers here pass by this one because it's so difficult to read, and if they weren't related then it would just become problematic. Now I'm going to back up, and there's one more Spain here right next to Thomas and Bridget, and her name is Cassie, or Catherine, and she married a man named David Tripp. She died May 26, 1891, aged 24 years, 5 months, and 6 days, and she also died of tuberculosis, leaving behind one little girl about the age of 1. So all of this is rather heart-wrenching. Notice at the top of her tombstone there are 2 books, and it looks like a type of cloth with tassels on it. So I don't know yet what that might represent. But these are the only Spains here. Now if we walk over just a little farther, we find Grandma Nell Haney Spain's father and one of her sisters. And you can see the territory here. It's just broad, sweeping farmlands. Very few small farms anymore. They've all been sold out to big ag, the big farming companies. And it's very windy here, but 75 degrees. So kind of a perfect time to come visit here. So now I'm approaching the tombstone for Thomas Haney, Nell Haney Spain's father, and her sister, Annie Haney. And Thomas Haney in Ireland, died in 1896 here of stomach cancer, according to the records. And on this side, we see his daughter, Annie, wife of Kingsbury, William Walter Kingsbury. She was born December 24th, 1869, and died August 26th, 1896. So, again, very young, and leaving behind 3 children, including a 1-year-old. And I don't know the cause of her death. Here we see the Haney logo. I do know that Annie, who then is the daughter of Anne and Thomas Haney, my great-grandparents, had a sister, Mary, and Mary and her husband never had children, but they adopted Annie's baby, and all their children stayed with the father. That's how it appears right now. So anyhow, this is really wonderful, and it appears that most of these tombstones are being cared for because hardly any of them have any growth on them, and there are some flowers and so on. And so we all need to look into how to preserve these monuments for the Spains. That, as far as I know, there are no Spains in this area anymore. And so I wanted to share this, particularly with my what we can do about getting that tombstone cleaned up.